Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 27th of April. And again, like we talked about, every time you're going to get to certain levels, there's going to be a step in. And if there's nothing below that price, then everyone bids up from it. And that's kind of what we saw happen on Friday. The problem is that when this happens, then there aren't any new participants, and you dip to the next level that drops down. Now, in this particular case, we've got the 50%. We had a 27.35. We didn't get down that low. We only got as far down as 55, so that was a big improvement. But the 50% right there at the 27.80 was the pivot point. And we've been in okay levels. We had the steel rising, which was a bit more bullish along with green. That was enough to do it. I still get people questioning. It's like, but what about when earnings, blah, 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 and the amount of borrowing that's going on? Yeah, it's all true. But you've got to really recognize that there is a divorce between reality and the power of the Fed and them supplanting and or buying, in this particular case, corporate debt, anything. They're unlimited, and it has the power to do that indefinitely. So, the sky is falling crowd, they're legitimately correct in saying that there are no earnings, and the prospects for a nice rebound start to things is suspect at best. All that said, if the government's going to keep paying everybody's bills and doing all that, then it's buying enough time. The market's not going to be affected by it, considering they're buying up all of the corporate debt and everything. There's no risk. This is that concept of moral hazard. From an NQ standpoint, again, it's still generally weak in the sense that we're not seeing any significant buyers other than short-term buyers, and that's been enough to propel it. It's slightly outside the improvements of the S&P, so if there is going to be any form of softening, you're likely to see it in the NASDAQ first when it takes place. But so far in this configuration, all we've had is just a modest easing of the shakeout at this particular point. If we get the first indication of a rising histogram, we could be looking at going back to the highs before all this began. Think about that for a moment. You will have added trillions in debt. You will have seen massive reductions in corporate earnings, and yet you'll have the same valuations. And that's part and parcel to the potential upcoming inflation and a variety of other external factors that are unrelated to earnings, because not everything about earnings drives price. And miraculously, the euro, sudden recovery, right back to our original zone line that the world banks love to get involved to make sure that they help maintain stability and order. Particularly as, we're, a week or so, a little over a week away from Italy opening up in May for some sporadic portion. Nobody's really completely clear, but even I'm going out and doing things, we're seeing a lot more activity from people. I think they're just kind of fed up with it. It was never intended to be a lockdown like this. It was always just supposed to be for mitigation purposes to reduce the amount of overflow in hospitals, and somehow it morphed from that to not spreading it. But you're not going to stop that. In fact, we may have just delayed it and increased its duration by doing these quarantines to the extent we had. Particularly when there were areas that just didn't have an incidence that was significant enough to impact hospitals. That's the time you let it spread and develop your herd immunity. I mean, Sweden, I think, is going to be done this week, where most will have been exposed to it, and they never turned their economy off in any way, shape, or form. It's going to be an interesting one for the history books. Oil, there's no demand. And until things start back up, and even when they start back up, the demand is going to be minor compared to the amount of supply available. It's going to take an awful long time to work through that. You're talking hundreds of days. So that's going to keep that in mitigation, which helps inflation. So that does keep things down. However, gold is still going to continue its press. No question about that. From an intraday standpoint, we started off with a little bit of softness, and then we ended up with beautiful MBI configuration buy setups here. The nice pivot, goes above, crosses below. I love it when they cross together at the same time. That actually happens lower than where the original dip below the orange was, and literally, created the buy right down at the bottom of the close right there at 62, and boom, then we just shot back up. And here's the thing: when you're getting some of these magenta candles, yes, it's legitimate with the DOC spread and that, but full reset with your steel. It's not like a DOC spread where it takes place and the steel is just crossed back below. Like in this particular case, it just rose above and then crossed back below, and then you get it. Fine, at that time it was still below, so I'm still expecting that there's going to be the potential for a recovery. But what happens is you start the continuation breakdown, and the steel doesn't cross until right down at the bottom, which is right here. And you don't get to pick when that's going to happen. You just have to wait for it, and then usually I look for the crossover of that orange to let me know that, hey, potentially I've got a push about to take place. So this when I'm turning here to Power Mo and say, do I have an up pivot with my cross? That doesn't take place until literally right before the blue candle, and that led to the modest little up. We ended up with another little down. Lots of warnings of a big sigma event from a outside move. Based, got the pivot up, came across to give the original trigger, and then the signal when it came right back down, and that's literally, if we took a look at it right there, we get takeoff from there, and boom. And so they just keep building the supports. Again, this one was the 2794, and then we consolidated just fractionally along the 2818. And then again, hitting that same 2830 kind of has been a little bit of resistance. So once they get above that one, they'll use that as the next basis. We've been in this consolidation for a few while, and that's just too much uncertainty with a lot of different things. The passing of the extra, hundreds, 400 billion plus for business relief and things like that helps. It makes a difference. Whether we'll see the money activate into the economy or not once the lockdown is over, and what kind of systemic shock is taking place as far as consumption and that will start to tell the tale. And I think as certain places start opening up, we'll begin to get a better gauge of that and what the new normal of activity is. And then I don't know that we're going to see the Fed pull out of anything prior to the election. It's hard to imagine in an election year that they're going to do something like that. It would have too much of an effect. But we'll see how that goes on. I mean, now there's a lot of uncertainty growing with Biden campaign, the sexual assault charges, and stuff like that. So combine that with the difficulties Trump is having, it's going to be an interesting one for us from a gyration standpoint. I think as we start to move into summer, we're going to see some excellent volatility as the uncertainty over the election grows. So that's still on the horizon. So we've got a lot of excitement to look forward to coming up. Plus, I'll be continuing to make alterations with the programs that I've been working with, and we should start to see some updates within the Pink 2. I mean, it's nothing you're going to have to do. You'll just see that the color changes will match more precisely to what we see from our combination of readings all coming in at the most beneficial points to give the aggregate of the best possible signaling. And that's the long and the short of it for now. As always, though, I will update things on the Skype chat and keep you updated. Trade well.